Hey everybody, what's up? So I wanted to kind of. By the way, I'm sorry it's been a while. I've been very busy. Holiday season, people. Holiday season. Luckily, we got my mom moved in here. My mom moved in with us, so that's pretty good. We got her moved in, and now we're just getting ready for the holidays. We just finished up Thanksgiving, obviously. Now we're just getting into Christmas, which I hope you guys have a good Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you have a good day anyway. Anywho, I wanted to talk about punk rock. More specifically, my favorite genre of punk. If you can even call it a genre. My favorite, I guess you could say, era. Proto-punk. Now, what is proto-punk, you may ask? Well, obviously, proto means before. So, before punk was in the zeitgeist, you got bands. So, proto-punk was a word from what came out in the late 70s, early 80s to describe bands what came out in the 60s and early 70s before the whole thing blown up. So, basically bands like Iggy Pop and the Stooges, bands like the Velvet Underground, or even like the MC5. So, which were totally different bands, but they all had kind of a similar attitude and coming from the similar place. And yes, I do have a whole thing about it. I'm getting there. I'm going to have a point. So basically, after that, we started getting bands in the early 80s what kind of sound like they came from the 60s, like the Gruesomes from Canada. What were really influenced by that kind of 60s sound, because even if you look in the surface, under the surface, outside of Iggy Pop and stuff, you also got garage rock bands, right? You got bands like the Missing Links, or Question Marks and the Syrians, or even early on the Kingsmen. But if you dig deeper into that, you get to the 50s and you start seeing a lot of, like, I guess you could say greaser rock and roll, really underground greaser rock and roll, doing like that kind of rockabilly sound. So anyway, what's my point about this, you may be saying? Jane, what's your point? So, there's a band who I actually did talk about before, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. King Gizzard, their band name is really difficult, so I'm just going to call them King Gizzard. It's a great band, though, don't get me wrong. And I do like their name for what it is, actually, but it is difficult to say, and because of my autism, it's hard for me to say it. So, let me actually try to say it 10 times fast. King Gizzard and the Lizard. I can't do it. Anyway, my point is, in this rabbity video, I feel like bands like King Gizzard and King Gizzard, I'm just going to call him King Gizzard, bands like that are the new proto-punk. Let me explain. With the internet, we got the idea of hindsight, right? And retro sight and all that stuff. And when I say this, I don't mean like they're copying what these... Actually, King Gizzard have a really interesting sound, what is totally unique to their own. However, what does all these bands have in common? The attitude. Right? I feel like what's going on here, we're getting to a point where we can look back at these bands in hindsight and grab what we like and put something extra in there. And I think in many cases, it's interesting. You know, if punk rock did have a sound, which it doesn't, but if it did, it would be attitude and anti-establishment. So I guess what I'm trying to say, bands like this are creating the next big proto thing, whatever it will be. It may not be called punk, but it will be similar in the sense that it's gonna happen. You know, trust me. And with the world crazy as it is and disasters happen, I honestly think we need something like that. Like, you know, it's one thing to say the government is lying. We all know that. It's a whole other thing to actually put up a middle finger and say, we're not going to take this bullcrap anymore. And that's what punk is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this kind of rambly video. So yeah, what do you guys think about this interesting take I have? Let me know.